So just as websites can be thought of as containers for information, tokens can be thought of as containers for value. And increasingly, many businesses are harnessing digital assets or tokens to open up new markets, to create new kinds of products and services, and reach new customers. The term cryptocurrency is a popular one, but unfortunately, it's a bit of a misnomer, as most tokens are not really trying to be currencies in the classical sense of being a medium of exchange, a store of value, and a unit of account. Rather, there is really a near infinite number of different kinds of tokens that represent ownership in everything from money to stocks to art, collectibles, data, natural assets, and so much more. In an effort to wipe some mud off the windshield and provide greater clarity to people who are new to Web3, I've developed a token taxonomy that includes 11 different kinds of assets. And these 11 kinds of assets collectively make up really the entirety of the market capitalization of all tokens. Let's examine them right now. Number one are cryptocurrencies. Not a misnomer in this case. Cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin are attempting to build internet-native money that can act as a store of value, as a unit of account, and as a peer-to-peer medium of exchange. Bitcoin is the dominant cryptocurrency. It has a market value of around 400 billion US dollars. It also happens to represent around 40% of the total market value of all tokens. Number two, protocol tokens like ETH, which powers the Ethereum blockchain, sometimes confused with Bitcoin. Protocol tokens like ETH are actually foundational to the development of new Web3 applications. Here's a helpful analogy. Think of Ethereum as a Web3 utility. In this analogy, Ethereum is this power grid, and ETH is the electricity, right? It is the thing that keeps the grid moving. To heat our homes and to charge our cars, we need electricity. And to run applications and to transact on the Ethereum network, we need ETH. So if you think about it, in the same way that if there are more homes and more cars and more users of electricity, the more applications that people build on Ethereum, the more value accrues to its native token because there's greater demand for it. A power utility makes more money when it has more customers, more users. The same is true for these kinds of networks. Number three are governance and utility tokens. These kinds of tokens give holders an economic stake and a say in how a protocol, or more often a service or application, is operated. So we've talked in the past about projects like Compound, Uniswap, and others in DeFi. They have a governance token that gives users an economic stake and a say in how those platforms are run. Adopters of products or services can basically earn these tokens by being users, or they can buy them in the open market. For example, holders of Uni have a vote on decisions affecting the Uniswap decentralized exchange, which, as it happens, runs on Ethereum. Number four, Oracle tokens. Blockchains are these immutable records of transactions in a network. Information that is recorded to blockchains are trustworthy, searchable, and auditable. And that's one of their great benefits. You don't have to rely on an intermediary. You can look to the chain itself. However, what is their strength can also be their weakness. Because they are self-contained systems, they do not have access to data that really happens in the real world, right? So the weather changes, election, change to the price of a stock or a bond. These things are not necessarily captured. So we need a way to bring off-chain data online. Enter oracles. Oracle systems create incentives to bring accurate off-chain data onto blockchains, and people get rewarded with tokens for doing so. Number five, interoperability tokens. We need easy ways to connect different blockchains, kind of like we have for the internet. TCP/IP is this common protocol that connects disparate networks together using the same computer language. Another way to think of it is like the bridges and tunnels for the internet of value. And interoperability protocols like Cosmos have themselves tokens that kind of help to regulate the flow of value across chains. So an easy way to think about this is to frame these kinds of protocols as canals or other arteries of commerce, blockchain commerce in this case. And the tokens are like tolls. So the more trade there is, the more these kinds of platforms prosper, the more tolls get paid to the network. Number six, securities tokens. So securities tokens are digital assets that represent a claim on a security, like a stock or a bond. A securities token could be a share in a company, it could be a fixed income device, a derivative contract, mutual fund, you name it, any kind of financial asset. Now, while the potential here is enormous, the value of all stocks globally is in the tens of trillions of dollars, securities tokens themselves actually still remain a niche. And that's largely because of laws that don't really widely recognize them yet. So this is not a matter of technology, but a matter of policy catching up with technology. Number 7, corporate coins. Corporate coins are issued by centralized businesses. This started with crypto asset exchanges, but has spread to other parts of the economy. You can think of these as kind of like loyalty points, but turbocharged. They're used by some companies, like Starbucks, for example, for special rebates, rewards, promotional offers, and so forth. Number 8, natural asset tokens. These tokens are backed by some physical asset, things like water, air, carbon, other natural assets. Natural asset tokens are a form of kind of collateralized asset. So let's look at one, for example, the carbon credit. The opportunity here to tokenize carbon credits is really significant. Carbon offsets can help us fight climate change, and a decentralized global registry to buy, sell, and retire credits could frankly expand that industry materially, but implementation challenges obviously still exist. Number 9, stablecoins. Stablecoins are digital assets that are pegged to or backed by another asset with stable value, most often the US dollar, though I think that will begin to change. Stablecoins are really the kind of primary medium of exchange in Web3 and have grown significantly in the past few years to well over $100 billion in supply. Number 10, non-fungible tokens. Non-fungible tokens, or NFTs, are unique digital goods that are provably unique, provably distinct, and therefore not fungible, meaning not interchangeable. While commonly associated with art and other rare collectibles, NFTs are also useful for expressing bespoke contracts and agreements. Another thing that NFTs are useful for is actually digital identities. So if you think about what is unique in the world, well, art and collectibles are unique, but we're unique. I'm my own person, you're your own person. And the things that make us who we are can be expressed as NFTs, as unique digital identifiers, which together, taken together, can allow us to create a self-sovereign identity. That's another important use for NFTs that is just barely scratching the surface. And finally, central bank digital currencies, what is more commonly known as CBDCs. CBDCs are digital assets that are issued by governments and central banks, as you might imagine. Now, advocates argue that this new kind of digital dollar or digital yen could accommodate unbanked people. It could reduce costs, and it could expose financial risks earlier, maybe making central banks more quick to respond to crises. But detractors warn, of course, that they could be used as a surveillance tool. And thus a way to control citizens. Financial surveillance is something that I think we should be vigilant about, and I think there are lots of hard questions to ask about central bank digital currencies. So that is the token taxonomy. Now, taxonomies, when things are early stage, are very useful. We're still trying to make sense of this emerging world, and finding ways to categorize it allows us to see the industry, I think, a little more clearly. But I think over time, this taxonomy that I've created will become less useful. And that's not because I'm becoming less useful, I hope not at least. It's because as the technology emerges, there will be a near infinite different number of examples of tokens. In the same way that it would be silly to create a taxonomy of websites, after all, there's a myriad of things you can do with a website, so too will it be, I think, silly or maybe not as useful to create a taxonomy for tokens. But today, they're useful, and I hope you enjoyed that.